after all the turmoil and all the investigating of 1989, baseball signed an agreement with me that there'll be no finding or denial that I bet on baseball. So then if you read that, then you read Rule 21, and you know I didn't bribe umpires or I didn't give people gifts, that you have to believe that I was suspended based on admitting that I illegally bet on football and hanging around undesirables, which was wrong. So I mean that's the bottom line. I mean that's the bottom line. So I get a kick out of people who say, "Why'd you sign the agreement?" Well, I'll tell you, it's very simple. I signed the agreement because all I was looking for was there'll be no finding that I bet on baseball, and I got that from the commissioner at Bart Giamatti's office. That's the same thing I'm going to do if I go to court the following week and prove I didn't bet on baseball. There's no finding I bet on baseball. The only difference, I'm going to save $500,000 in lawyer fees, and I'm not going to drag baseball through a court proceeding during the playoffs. And if I do take him to court and prove, which I would have, that I didn't, I'm still going to get the same suspension based on what I admitted. I just can't understand why people have such a hard time figuring that out. I mean, I hear Hall of Famers saying, "Well, he must have did this, or he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have took a lifetime suspension." Well, I took a lifetime suspension, but when I saw the lifetime suspension, I also saw that after a year you can apply for reinstatement. So to me, it wasn't a lifetime suspension. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It says you will be suspended for life, but you can apply for reinstatement after a year. That's what I was saying. When I signed the agreement said there'll be no finding that Pete Rose bet on baseball. And that's from the commissioner's office. Now, explain to me, what does no finding mean? That they didn't find it.
Right.
Okay? And that's the same thing you get if you go to court, right? It's the same thing. And believe it or not, I mean, regardless of what you read, I mean, the perception is everything with me, and that's my problem. I mean, baseball came to me we were supposed to go to court the following Monday, okay? And baseball came to me on Monday night, and they wanted me to wait 19 years to apply for reinstatement. Tuesday, they wanted me to wait 12, okay? Tuesday night, they wanted me to wait 9. Wednesday morning, they wanted me to wait a year. So they went from 19 years to 1 year because they didn't want to go to court the next Monday, because they knew they didn't have ammunition. They know they didn't have ammunition. But they still had me because I admitted I illegally bet, which was wrong. I was wrong. But I illegally bet on football. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for ball players, but I know last year there were some allegations came out about Albert Bell losing $50,000, and they just swept that right underneath the carpet, and they end up saying that, well, you lost that in clubhouse pools. Well, let me explain something to you. I don't know if you're a gambling man or not, but if you lose $50,000 in clubhouse pools, there's some heavy gambling going on in that clubhouse. That's a lot of money to lose in a clubhouse pool. I mean, Michael Jordan had some gambling allegations about him. What David Stern tell him to do? Take a year off and come back? I mean, you're gonna take Michael Jordan and kick him out of your game? You're gonna ruin your game if you do. I mean, there's a situation where, you know, they needed that guy. They needed Michael Jordan. Yeah, because I broke the rules. I knew that. But my problem was this, and it wasn't he did anything against the rules or anything, but they had a press conference like at 9 o'clock, and we had a press conference at 10 o'clock. His was in New York, mine was in Cincinnati. I remember we were at my attorney's home watching it. And Bart Giamatti read this agreement I just told you about. There'll be no finding or denial. That's why I don't ever answer the question, because I'm going to live up to the agreement. They don't have to live up. They don't have to live up to the agreement if they don't want to, okay? Because they stick their foots in their mouth because they have a signed agreement. There'll be no finding, but they keep saying this or they keep saying that, okay? So if and God rest his soul, believe it or not, I like Giamatti. I got along with Bart Giamatti. I had several meetings with Bart Giamatti about the game of baseball. We cared about the game. We worried about the game. The only difference, I cared about the game a hell of a lot longer than he did. I cared about the game a lot longer than he did because I was in it a lot longer than he was. And God rest his soul, But the worst thing that could happen to me is him dying. See, because what happened is this. Bart Giamatti's got this agreement that him and I signed. And he reads this agreement, okay? Then he sets the agreement down. And he says, is there any questions? And a guy in the back says, well, do you personally think he bet on baseball? And Bart says this, upon reading the Dowd report, yes, I do. Well, I think I did upon reading the Dowd report because the Dowd report was a bunch of lies. Okay? Now, 3 days later, he dies. Well, why did that hurt me? And God rest his soul. I mean, his family is a great family, and he was a tremendous, intelligent man. Now, because he dies, nobody in the media did this, what they would have did if he'd have remained living. They'd have said, well, Bart, why did you sign this agreement saying he didn't bet on baseball and turn around and say he did in front of us? Why didn't you prove it? But they didn't do that because he left them with that perception of what he said. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what hurt me. If I knew, believe it or not, and we were pissed when he said that because he kind of broke the gentleman's agreement of the agreement. You understand what I'm saying? If we knew he was going to die, we'd all bets off. Let's go to court the next Monday. If we knew he was going to die, after he said that. But we knew some writers would, some New York writers would have took 2 days to ask him, well, why'd you sign this if you think he did? Why'd you go to court? Or it might have took some writers a week, might have took some a month, it might have took some of the dumb ones a year. But they still would have asked the question, why did you sign this agreement? There's no finding, and then turn around and say he did. It's like a judge saying, well, you're not guilty of murder, but I think you killed that person. A judge don't do that. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely.
And that's the perception that I'm living with today. Because he said what he said, everybody forgot about what he put in writing.
So the perception that you're living with today is there are a lot of people.
There's people think there's still people even in the Hall of Famers that think I got kicked out of baseball for betting on baseball, and that's totally untrue. That's totally untrue. I'm not going to answer that question because I'm going to live up to the agreement. I answered that question to the 3 guys I needed to answer that question to. And right away people are saying, well, he must have, he's not going to answer the question. Hey, when I sign an agreement, there'll be no finding or denial that I bet on the game of baseball. I'm going to live up to that agreement. Okay? Because I answered the people that I had to answer. And that's all I can say about that. Sure it was. It was crushing in this way because I made mistakes. I was wrong betting with a bookmaker. I was wrong not paying all my taxes. I paid 96%. I was wrong. I was totally wrong, and I accept the consequences. But they did not do a fair and impartial investigation. And I'm not mad at people who run baseball. I'm not mad at people who own baseball teams. I'm not mad at fans of baseball because I made the mistakes. But they did not do a fair and impartial investigation. Listen, is this a fair and impartial investigation? When I play baseball 24 years and I manage 4 or 5 years, so I give 28 years of my life of being the ambassador to baseball that they needed, and all of a sudden the commissioner of baseball will send a letter to a federal judge asking for leniency for a drug dealer and says because he believes his testimony about me before he even asked me the question. Before they even interviewed me, he's already asking this federal judge for leniency for this convicted drug dealer. He said, we believe all of his testimony about Pete Rose before they even asked me a question. Now, if that's a fair and impartial investigation, I missed a train somewhere. And that's the thing that disappointed me more than anything else. Not the fact that I got kicked out of baseball because I broke the rules. He'd have had to answer some questions. And then the question would have been, why did you sign this agreement and then make the statements that you made? I'm not sold at all that they got any facts. Yet if you interviewed John Dowd tomorrow or Fay Vincent tomorrow, you would think they're both still working on this deal. And if I'm not mistaken, now correct me if I'm wrong, but they both got fired by baseball. For some reason, they both got fired by baseball. But see, the thing with John Dowd is this, that his reputation's at stake here. So, this guy is this guy put mafia types behind bars. I mean, he was the head of Strike Force. And, you know, he starts creating all this fingerprints and phone records and betting slips. Believe me, they don't have that kind of stuff. But yet everybody in America thinks they do. I want to see them. Show them to me. I want to see them. But no, everybody's always got them, but where are they? Well, we can't find them. Well, where are they? Well, we can't find them. I mean, I know the facts. I get a kick out of people who think they know the facts. I know the facts. So, you know, it's water over the dam. I can't do anything about it. I have to worry about tomorrow. I can't worry about yesterday's newspaper. And there's a lot of people who think, well, if they keep saying they got this, why don't they bring it up? But it's amazing how people say, well, show us that betting slip. Go ahead, make an ass out of yourself. Show us that betting slip. Show us that phone record you got. And no one ever comes up with that. You know, I understand about the 1919 Black Sox scandal and how ticklish baseball is about gambling. But you know, the sad thing about my scenario here is this, that if I'd have been addicted to drugs as opposed to betting on football, one, I'd probably still be managing the Cincinnati Reds, making $1.5 million a year. Two, they would have paid for my rehab. And another thing about my situation, if my hometown, now listen to this. This is how screwy this situation is. If my hometown was anywhere in Nevada, as opposed to being Cincinnati, Ohio, everything I did was legal. Wouldn't it be nice to have the luxury of getting up every Sunday morning and flying to Las Vegas to make your football bets and flying back home? Wouldn't that be great? So those are the two things that got me in trouble. No, I stay within my means. I mean, that's another thing that got blown out of proportion. I mean, that's why the IRS got on my case. I mean, you can't put in the paper on Monday the guy went to the racetrack and won $400,000 and he lost $300,000 and he won $200,000. I mean, you ever went to the racetrack? I mean, seriously, how could you lose $200,000 at a racetrack? What do you walk in with, a suitcase of money? I mean, think about it. You don't get credit at a racetrack. If you're going to bet on a race, you got to have money out of your pocket. You ever seen anybody with $20,000 or $30,000 in their pocket? I never went to the racetrack with more than $10,000. So how am I winning $300,000 and losing $200,000 and winning $300,000 here and losing $500,000 here? And the IRS starts reading that. They say, hey, we better start investigating this guy. And what did they find out? That I underpaid my taxes by 4%. That's what they found. That's what they found out. You know what happened to me in this situation, and it seems like it only happened in Cincinnati and surrounding areas, is this, that I think a lot of guys who were my friends in the media chose their allegiance too soon. What I mean by that is when this allegation came out, or that allegation came out just like the one I just was talking about the sums of money, that they believed everything they read and they start writing according to that. Now, there's writers in Cincinnati that if I saved a busload of school children from going over a cliff, they would figure out a way how I cheated to do it. Because they wrote so many bad things about me that now they're hypocritical if they write a good thing about me. You understand what I'm saying? So before the facts were really solidified, before the facts were really proven, they believed everything that they heard. And it drives me crazy when today I'll pick up a piece of paper and a guy will say, well, Pete Rose was suspended for baseball for betting on baseball, and they got phone records and they got this betting slip and they got this and they got that. And I mean, how uninformed these guys are, that they can have a pencil and a typewriter to be selling stuff to the public. It's amazing. It's amazing to me. If I played baseball like that, baby, let me tell you, you wouldn't be sitting here interviewing me right now. You wouldn't want nothing to do with me, because I would not have any records. I would not have anything in the world of baseball. I understand the press. I mean, hey, I'm one guy that got in trouble with the press a lot. You know why I used to get in trouble with the press? Because I always told the truth. And a lot of times the truth is not good enough, because the truth is not a story. You know, have you ever noticed that Charles Barkley gets in trouble because he tells the truth? You know, I'm one guy, and maybe it's a fault to some extent, but I'm the type of guy that will answer your question, and sometimes it's best not to answer the question. Because you know what I learned a long time ago dealing with the press? is if you ask me, Pete, what color is the sky? And I look up and it's green. I want to say it's green, although you might write tomorrow it's blue. So I want you to write what I'm saying. I don't want you to write what I might say. And that happens a lot. You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys have a controversial subject, and they'll ask you a question, and they'll ask it in a way where they can get the controversy out of you just the way you answer it. And I'm another guy that will say things that everyone else is scared to say. I'm not scared to say things because I like everybody. I mean, I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and that was my problem. My problems came because I trusted too many people. See, your sound man could tell me you're a bad guy, but you've been a nice guy to me, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm stupid. I'm going to find out the hard way that you were a bad guy. And when I find out, it's going to be too late for me. That's what happened to me in my life. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt because Jansen was a jerk to this guy and a jerk to that guy, and he was nice to me. I'm not going to feel he's a jerk because you tell me he's a jerk. I'm going to find out the hard way. But I've learned since then. I'm very selective of people that I associate with now. So what I'm saying is, you know, and this is unclear too if you think about it. And you're probably going to ask this question. And you don't have to because I'll answer for you. I was told to reconfigure my life by Bart Giamatti. What does that mean? Based on what I was suspended for, I assume it means no more illegal gambling and be very selective of people that you associate with. And I've done that. Okay? So if I accomplish or I did what they asked me to do, what's going to be the reason they're not going to reinstate me? You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, if I did what they told me to do, I mean, it's just like a judge says, you're on parole, and if you do this and you do that, we'll take you off parole. And you do what he asks you to do, he'll take you off parole, correct?
Correct.
Now I can't get baseball to respond on my application for reinstatement. It's been since September. Yet I can go over to spring training and be asked to talk to 130 kids about the game of baseball and talk to them for an hour, and only 5 minutes about hitting, the other 55 minutes about the love of the game and the love of the fans and the dedication you should have for the sport and the caring you should have about the sport. Where in reality, they should have bottled that speech and give it to every team in baseball. They can't wait to fine the Reds $250,000 saying I'm breaking my suspension.
As baseball
So it took them an hour to act on that. 90% of people think I should be in the Hall of Fame and be reinstated. But I think it'd be better if 10% would say yes. Because baseball doesn't do the sound, fundamentally sound thing. They always do the wrong thing. I mean, aren't you surprised, being an outsider looking in, aren't you surprised that anybody in baseball can still walk as many times they shot themselves in the foot the last 15 years?